outstanding environmental activists here in Oregon and around the world.
Welcome all to the next part of this unbelievable public interest law conference. Let's thank the co-directors and all the volunteers. Before we begin the keynotes, we give an award established by the students themselves 3 years ago after Professor Xiuhtezcatl untimely died. And it is the Xiuhtezcatl Kravchenko Award for environmental activism, but it's a special kind of environmental activism. The award is given to a person who teaches law and inspires students and goes out and does things on the fire. In other words, it's normally given to a professor who doesn't just sit there with his pointy head and sort of tell people what the law is and expect them to write it down. Rather, a professor who, him or herself, has lived the life and who believes that students need to be helped along, those who want to go into the world that we all have of environmental activism. So I will start simply by, those of you who didn't know Xiuhtezcatl, to give you a very brief set of pictures, and then Elizabeth Brown, one of her favorite students, will talk a little bit more, and then we'll introduce our awardee. So Xiuhtezcatl Kravchenko was a professor of environmental law for, I don't know, 30, 40 years, starting in Ukraine. And she was very involved in international environmental law as well as domestic environmental law. In Ukraine, she created the first national park in Ukraine. At the international level, she was voted to be vice chair of a quasi-adjudicatory body of the United Nations involving what's called the Argus Convention for public participation, access to justice and information. She was Ukrainian through and through, no doubt about that. But as she said, I would have only left my country for one reason. And so she did leave, and we were married, and she eventually... and then she became an American. Of course, being a Ukrainian, she never sent her Ukrainian passport back to the Ukrainian government. And in fact, she also voted in the Orange Revolution before she became a citizen. She was a lecturer to students, of course. This, in fact, was at the Public Interest Environmental Law Conference. But symbolic of the kind of people who received this award, she was a person who brought students into her home. She didn't get this potluck thing. You know, Ukrainians don't get that. She said, they're coming into my home. I'm doing all the meal. And so she would do that. She would then take her students. One of her favorite students, Miana Dellinger, is here today, who's now a professor in law herself. This is Miana when she was still a student, took them to the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, to introduce them at the international level. But Xiuhtezcatl wasn't just this. She was, as I said, not just the professor. She was an adventurer. In this case, scuba diving, something that she resisted and then fell in total love of. In fact, when we scuba dived, I watched the clock because she would only watch the fish and coral, and I'm the one who had to say, we gotta go up. Sometimes she was maybe too bit of an adventurer, I don't know. She loved the outdoors. She loved the outdoors from the very beginning. She told a story one time of how she became an environmentalist. Her father was a hunter, and she went out and hunted with him when she was a young girl. And she shot a rabbit. And when she came to the rabbit, she said, I saw the green fire dying in its eyes, and I heard it whimpering like a baby. And I said, I will never kill another animal. She was a skier. Well, sometimes I interfered with her skiing. And now, one of her favorite students will tell you a little bit more about why this award is named after her and why it signifies the kind of people who receive it.
My name is Elizabeth Brown, and I'm a 2013 alum of U of O Law and Marine Water, and I'm now an attorney and legal coordinator for our Children's Trust, where we support young people around the world in their struggle to stand up for their right to a livable planet. And John asked me last night to say a couple words about a dear professor of mine who was an has had an incredible influence on my life, Wahleah Kravchenko. Many in this room, I'm sure, have had or are very fortunate to have been touched by Xiuhtezcatl, and she left a legacy as a passionate and global environmental citizen advocate, inspired public interest, environmental law students and lawyers around the world, and her death 3 years ago was an enormous loss. She was a pioneering legal scholar in the recognition of the connection between human rights and environmental protection, and she wrote the first law school textbook on the subject, and I was fortunate to be able to take that class from her. And she was a professor of environmental law for 35 years in Ukraine and the United States, and as a teacher, Xiuhtezcatl inspired her students, and she pushed us to think outside the box and strive for what others would deem as impossible. And she was always saying nothing is impossible, and she inspired me to join our Children's Trust and the effort to push governments around the world to fulfill their sovereign obligations to protect present and future generations from catastrophic climate change. And accepting the Senior Scholarship Prize given by the IUCN Academy of Environmental Law, Xiuhtezcatl said, quote, "We face a world of onrushing disaster fueled by carbon and greed. We also face a world that still contains great beauty and that is populated by humans capable of great acts of generosity, both toward our fellow humans and toward the planet that we inherited from our parents and grandparents." She urged us to help move society, quote, away from carbon and greed and toward beauty and generosity. The students and alumni of Land or Water are honored to present the Xiuhtezcatl Kravchenko Environmental Rights Award today to a person who carries on in Xiuhtezcatl's spirit. And I'm so fortunate to have known and been influenced by the extraordinary passion and wisdom of both Xiuhtezcatl and this year's recipient, who Professor John and I will introduce.
Seen this guy around here? So Xiuhtezcatl, as I said, brought people to her home, to our home. This is MC Mehta, the incredible Indian environmental lawyer, and this is this other guy that you'll learn a little bit more about. This is Tony Oposa with one of the litigators in our Children's Trust litigation, Alec. Tony just loves this guy. This is Tony with some other litigators and participants in the climate change litigation. Now, one thing that I learned when Xiuhtezcatl and I went to University of the Philippines to visit Tony and to lecture in his class, is I have this incredible hard time, or maybe I just don't work hard enough, knowing my students' names. I mean, I just can't, I get the name chart, and sometimes I get their pictures, and I still blow it, and they all think I don't care about them. Tony has a solution to this problem, and I think I might consider adopting this. This is how he runs his class at the University of the Philippines. Tony is Filipino through and through. This is the typical jeepneys in Manila, and at the back of this bus, you'll see they are not Cherokees, but it says, "How's my driving?" And I'm sure that Tony has an answer to that. The answer is, it's too much. Tony filed a lawsuit, I mentioned this the other day, on behalf of his children and others, and when I met the client was about 3 feet tall. This is the client ready to graduate from law school. This is Tony Boy Jr. And this is, to give you almost one of the last pictures of Tony before you see him in the flesh, Tony and Xiuhtezcatl trying to hold up the world at the climate change negotiations in Copenhagen. But there's one thing I think it's really important, well, maybe not for you, but for some other people in this world. Don't mess with Tony. I mean, really, he's not the kind of guy you want to mess with. For example, let me get this full screen. This is some of Tony's work in the Philippines.
Mula diri ang Katudyenda, makatinapay, saging gatas at kalamay. Ini-ini, tulong anay, wala diri ang imong hanay. Katudyenda.
Wow, what's that? Tony speaking there in the doorway. See more, but I think it's better to hear from Tony, the guy who goes out in naval patrol boats and gets the bad guys. Tony, a book.
May I ask my colleagues from the University of Hawaii to please join me here? My students and my co-professor David Foreman, can you please stand up there? And Dinah Bear, is she here? Little do you know that Dinah Bear played a key role in the children's case. Is she here? Dinah Bear? Anyway, thank you very much for the great honor. The greatest honor perhaps is one that is given to someone that is named after someone who we personally know. And of course, she has been described, but to me, she was a friend. She was a highly esteemed colleague and co-worker. She was a scholar of the first order. She was a teacher, a mentor, an actionist. I don't like the word activist. Makes us sound like hippies. I like to use the word actionist. She took action. And she had first-rate intellect, and as you saw, she was an inspiration to generations, both in Ukraine and to her students around the world. She can walk with princes and paupers and be the woman she was. But there was only one thing that surpassed her intellect. It was her heart. There is a saying that people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And we all know that Xiuhtezcatl, we call her in the Philippines, we call her sweet, cared for each and every one of us. Second point is that we are here today in the Public Interest Environmental Law Conference because of the vision and action of one man who, as you know, is a bundle of energy and who founded this 33 years ago without any money, but with the courage of a dream. With a powerful dream to gather men and women of shared passions. The author C.S. Lewis said that friendship is a people of shared passions. And we are all here, my friends. Although many of us do not know each other yet, but we are all here because we share a passion for life and for the sources of life, land, air, and water, and for the life forms of which we are supposedly, allegedly, the most intelligent creature. Allegedly. This event has since become the premier gathering of public interest environmental law lawyers and actionists to come here once a year to share stories and to inspire each other. They say that inspiration is the highest form of leadership. He has gone on to found two other important institutions, the Environmental Law Alliance Worldwide and the Environmental Law Professors Network all over the world. We are, in this generation, my friends, we are lucky in this generation that we have these two persons, man and woman, who were partners both in life and in work, who shined on the world and gave us the radiance, shared with us the radiance so that we too may shine a little bit. My friends, you all know him. He is not only my brother, he is not only my friend, he is not only my co-worker, he is my brother, John Bonay. Please stand up, John, and please join me here. Please join me here. He is an example of what happens when you decide, and all of you here are doing that. He is an example, perfect example of someone who decides and determines to do something without any funding and gets it to happen. He is, they say men and women, great men and women are like stars. We may not reach them, but we can look up, see their beauty, and always try to follow where they lead. The last point is to celebrate them and to celebrate all of you tonight. We are going to have a party right here after the keynote addresses. We're going to have, and be prepared to bring your own food, but also be prepared to dance. Our Latin friends and our African friends are going to bring some soul and dancing music. They say, dance as if no one is watching. Love as if you have never been hurt. Work as if you do not need money. And then pray as if God, the God within you, is awake and is listening. Third point and last point is that there is a saying that says, if you want to be heard, tell a story. If you want to start a revolution, ask a question. And if you want to touch the heart, sing a song. We do not need to change minds, my friends. We must not change minds, we must change hearts. When you change the mind, you can change tomorrow. But when you change the heart, it is forever. So my friends, in celebration of all of you, I am going to sing. But I am not going to sing alone. I am going to ask all my friends here from the University of Hawaii, Liz Brown, Mary Wood, and their children, please come over. Tori Wilder, Mike Axline, Bill and Andrea Rogers, Tom, Lou and Eric, Rugi Melesa, my classmate, Jenny Ramos, Concha from Turkey, Kelly, Cliff and Olivia Villa. You can stay there, you can stay there, I will go down. And Cliff, is Cliff here? Cliff and Olivia. You know, Cliff Villa, you do not probably know Cliff Villa, he's a professor of law. And his daughter is right there. At 11 years old, she wrote a novel. At 11 years old. And it's published by Google. Okay, there, no, we can stay. Now, all of you be ready. And then, can you play this? Can you play this? Oh, there. Rory? Yeah. Okay. Who Put it out. Daniel Gabriel, don't hide there. Come here. You'll see. Come here, come here. We'll see the first. We'll see the first. Okay, David. What's happening? Okay. There's a little technical problem here. All of you be ready to sing the first day. Okay, what? Oh, they need a little sound. Hello, we need some sound there. Excuse me. Because they're all going to sing. This is a there you go. No, there's a music. No, there's nothing there. Wait. Okay, we will sing the first stanza, and then we will go back to the top. Okay, Dave. Jenny Ramos, come here.
I see trees so green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Okay, go back to the top. Go back to the top. Go back to the top. Stop. All of you, please stand up. Everybody must sing. Close the door. Nobody can go out unless you sing. Music is the language of the heart. So please do not be shy. Please sing. Because this is a symbol of our unity and shared passion. Dave. Okay, come here. There you go. Okay, Dave.
I see trees so green,
Red roses too.
I see them blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Everybody must sing.
I see skies so blue and clouds of white, bright blessed days, dark sacred nights, and I think to myself,
What a wonderful world.
colors of the rainbow, so radiant in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? Every saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, watch them grow. They're much more than I'll ever know. What a wonderful
to Tony Aposa, public interest lawyer, professor, actionist, inspirer extraordinaire, the 2015 Xiuhtezcatl Kravchenko Environmental Activism Award.
Well, how do we switch back after that? Woo! Well, to introduce our next keynote speaker, I am so proud and honored to have both the keynote speaker and this incredible woman with us today. To introduce our next keynoter is Kelsey Juliana, who has known PIELC. She's been a part of the PIELC family since birth, and so Kelsey, we're so glad to have you here today. She's a climate activist and just an incredible person. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you so much for having me back at PIELC. Grown up here, it's my 19th PIELC, and I'm 18. And I'll count this as my birthday celebration. Xiuhtezcatl is a name recognized around the globe, and a name nobody forgets. It is the name of a fierce environmental, climate change, and indigenous rights advocate and activist, of a musical producer, musician, and composer. This 14-year-old rock star visionary has been advocating for rights of the earth, current, and for future generations since he was 6 years old. From Boulder, Colorado, he has spent the past few years traveling the world, engaging with youth and empowering them to become solution-oriented change makers and leaders within their community and abroad. He is suing his state of Colorado for not taking aggressive action on the climate. He's a leader and youth director for Earth Guardians, which is an international organization, and they continue to spring up across the planet. He is the founder and visionary, and as well as one of the youth council members for Generation Rise, a new organization bringing youth from a diversity of ages, geographic locations, identities, together to gain skills and community for creating our own change. He's been to Washington, D.C. to meet with representatives from all three branches of government, and he's also spoken in front of hundreds and hundreds of youth across the world, as well as being one of the youngest speakers at the Rio Plus 20 UN Summit in 2012. Along with all of these incredible accomplishments, he is a hip-hop dancer, a student, a teacher, a kind brother, a fierce friend, and one of the most eloquent, compassionate, funny, enthusiastic, and empowering persons I've ever met. I am beyond thrilled to work with him on Rise, and honored to know him as a friend. He has had a huge influence on me since I watched his short documentary piece produced by Our Children's Trust, I Matter, and Witness, highlighting the effects of climate disruption on his home state of Colorado, and he continues to inspire me every day with his enthusiasm and love for life on this earth, and with his fierce determination and vision towards creating a real, livable, and just planet, looking at environmental and social issues alike. Without further ado, although I could speak about him forever, I am so excited and pleased to present to you one of the most incredible people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing, one of the most charming and influential leaders of this day and age. I'm only 14. And as he said, at the 2014 National Pioneers Conference in San Rafael, California, one of the most important leaders in this generation of change. Xiuhtezcatl Martinez. Thank you.
What's up, everybody? So I'm going to be juggling two computers here. Shout out to Kelsey. Hugest shout out to Kelsey just for being an amazing friend. We're homies. Okay, so I'm going to... Is it cool if I plug this computer? Yeah. Plug mine in? Yeah, it's cool. All right. I hope I didn't mess anything up. Should only take a moment longer. Okay. Is it up there? Alright, let's got it. Everything plugged in? I think. Okay. There. The lion. That is my presentation, thank you. Okay, let's see. There's my mouse. I cannot see it on my screen, so I'm trying to like click on it. Oh. Is it that way? Whoa! Oh my god, I found it. Sick. Alright. Let's do this. There we go. Hello everyone. That was a very, very beautiful demonstration of music, of love, of connecting through the music. So thank you so much for helping us out with that. I'm sorry I forget your name. I have horrible names, which is ironic because my name is like 11 letters. Nobody can pronounce it. So my name is Xiuhtezcatl. Xiuhtezcatl is how you say it in Nahuatl, but most people can't pronounce that, so you can call me Xiuhtezcatl, like Xiuhtezcatl. I'm 14 years old. I don't really know what else to say about myself. Kelsey said it all. But I'm 14 and I've been spending like the last 8 years of my life doing everything that I can to protect the earth, the air, the water, and the atmosphere so that my generation and those to follow will inherit a healthy, just, and sustainable planet. So I've given school presentations to middle schools, high schools, and colleges across the country, performed at music festivals across the country, represented the youth voice at United Nations events across the country, been here to support and just kind of just bring a different perspective to a lot of incredible conferences like PIELC. This is our second time here and we're so happy to be back. And just shout out to all the amazing people that made this happen. Shout out to Julia for bringing us out here. Oh my God, there's so many amazing people to thank and biggest shout out to my mom right here. Stand up, Mom. I got a lot of people to thank for getting me here today. And so I'm going to share just a little bit of my story, a little bit of what I know. And hopefully you guys will walk out of this room with at least one person a little bit more inspired than they did coming in. And that's going to be tough because there's a lot of inspiration. You know, there's a lot of positivity and there's a lot of growth that can come out of amazing things like this. And so I'm excited to be able to share this with everybody. And we'll see where we go from here. So one of the reasons that I got involved with all this stuff, this clicker, is this on? On. It's plugged in, okay? Well, I can just walk over here and do that. All right. So I have been really involved in the climate movement for a very long time now. And a lot of people ask me, you know, why is a kid, so I did my first public speaking engagement when I was 6 years old, believe it or not. And there's actually like the coolest video of it on our Earth Guardian YouTube channel. But a lot of people ask, why did you get involved at such a young age? And a huge part of that was just my connection to my culture. My connection to my indigenous roots, my connection to my ancestors, and just all the teachings that came with that. You know, as soon as I could walk, I was learning our traditional dances. As soon as I could speak, I was learning our native language, and with all that came all the teachings that I was taught from my elders and from my father, that all life is sacred. That all life is connected, that each and every one of us have a responsibility to protect the world around us, because we are here as stewards of the land, as protectors of the nature, and as guardians of the earth. So I grew up with that in my head, and I grew up with the connection to the forests, the mountains, the rivers, and the forests of Colorado. And I grew up in that, and so what really drove me into action was just this connection to that as I started seeing the destruction of our planet. And just, as long as I can remember, I've been in and out of the ceremonies, and I think just a lot of these teachings that we hear from Native peoples, from indigenous peoples, of connection, of balance, of oneness with the planet around us, that has made me who I am today. And a lot of people are forgetting that. You know, a lot of people can argue that, you know, I'm not indigenous, but we're all indigenous from somewhere, and we're all indigenous to the Mother Earth, no matter who we are. And so to break up my talking, so you guys don't get bored, I'm going to perform a few songs for you guys. So I'm going to call up my siblings up here to come and help me perform this song with you guys. This song is called Indigenous Roots, and it talks about a connection as indigenous people, as native people, to our lands that has been taken from us, and just this importance and this necessity to return to these old ways of life that are continuing to live in harmony and live in balance with the world around us. So these guys are going to get up here, they're going to introduce themselves very briefly, and as I get the music set up. So let's see, where we got the mics? Yeah? They're back here. Cool. We found them. Alright, try to grab the same ones you guys. Alright, so they will introduce themselves as I get this music set up, because we have a very complicated and unsustainable system going on back here.
Check 1, 2. Hi, hello everybody. My name is Xiuhtezcatl. Yeah, I'm 11 years old. I've been rapping since I was 7, and it's amazing to be here for my second year, not in a row, but still.
Alright. Shout out to my beautiful music here. She's an incredible, talented performing artist, songwriter, lyricist, working on a lot of solo stuff, along with traveling around the world with us. So just, you guys are going to hear our music, and you guys are going to see how we tell our story through words, through lyrics, and through the vibration of the beat, as much as anybody else can through words. So, it's indigenous roots. Yeah. Take it away.
The power chief of the world is in each of our hands. It's not the president or government, they still don't understand. We fight for our people, for the planet we stand. As the government and industries walk hand in hand, we will fight for our rights against the toxins. We will take back the streets. This is our land. This is the only thing that we must protect it. Nothing left to say no to the public. Nothing on Obama to reject it. Each of our to live in land. We desecrate our secret home for the toxins. To the companies in the industry who are planning to grow, we can tell the stories of what the spindles want to be. So we're faithful to create our own destiny. We are soul in this land for future generations, inspiration, desperation. Yeah, that's right, we are first nation. Aquí luchamos para el hombre humano, la tierra y el viento, la agua contaminada. Nuestros ancestros en la clase baja, por la vida me ha dado una cosa sobrevivir y otra cosa crecer. Como en el bosque es tiempo amanecer. Somos gente de la tierra, no la gente de la guerra. El camino rojo, nuestra cultura sagrada. We desecrate our secret home for the toxins. The people of the turf will revert, that will revert. To the companies and industries who are planning and from our people tell me stories. When this land was one free, so we will come and create our destiny. We have soul this land from future generations, separation, desperation. Yeah, that's right, we are first nation.
Yeah. Indigenous roots. Yeah, that's right, we are first nation. We're the first people to know the land. Though our way of life has been threatened, we are striving to pass on our teachings to the next generation, so that we can create a new world for all people on earth. We are the caretakers of the land. We honor the sacred connection between all beings. We see beauty in the simple stewards of the land and the guardians of the earth.
I'm a descendant of a people oppressed and enslaved.
Rising up and breaking free from these locks and chains. We are free from the movement.
Let's all arise, uniting the people of the earth. All under one sky to protect the sacred land, to defend our only home. To protect the sacred waters, we will never be alone. We connect to the ancient wisdom of our ancestors past. Set free my people, we are rising at last.
To defend the sacred land,
To defend our only home, to protect these sacred waters, we will never be alone. We connect to the sacred wisdom of our ancestors past. Set free my people, we are rising at last. To link us in the sand, we desecrate our sacred home for the tops and the ancient people of this earth. We'll reap for those we burn, show the company and industry who are playing from our people. Tell me stories of when Islam was once here. Decide what we feel, can we create our own destiny? We are ensuring this land to the future generations. Operation Recreation, stand united as one nation.
indigenous roots. Alright. So you guys got a little taste of our musical collaboration with all this work that we've been doing. So to move on with the presentation. So one of the hugest things that really got me to being where I am today and moved me from, you know, this total pure connection with the world around me to seeing the crisis that we are facing was watching this documentary called The 11th Hour. And it showed the destruction of our planet. It showed the devastation of our civilization, what we were inflicting upon the earth. It showed the fact that we are justifying the destruction of our planet because it's convenient, and because it's cheap, and because it's easy. And I think the most empowering thing about watching that when I was like 6 years old is seeing that humans cause the greatest crisis we've ever seen. It's not just about global warming anymore. It's not just about climate change anymore. We're in a climate crisis. And we created that. So we can stop it. So ever since then, I've been doing everything that I can to move forward and build the solutions that we want to see. And so when you look at the problems in our world, when you look at our economic crisis, when you look at the crisis that comes from our extraction of energy on the planet, the unsustainable way that we are producing energy to power these lights, to drive our cars, to build everything that we see around us. When we see the contamination in our oceans, in the plastic, in our environment, when we see the extinction and the disappearance of species that my children and my grandchildren may only see in textbooks, when we see the contamination of our waters and the destruction of the health of our air and the health of our people and the degradation of indigenous cultures across the planet, when you see these issues are being passed down to us. The adult's gonna have a party on the planet and leave it for us to clean up. And it's not going to go away unless we do something about it. If you look at these issues, they're not just an issue of the present, they're an issue of the future. This is the kind of world you are leaving to us, and that we will leave to our children unless we can stand up and shift something in the way that we relate to the world around us. So when you look at a lot of these crises, it comes from in the way that we are extracting energy from the earth. In the mindset that we currently have, we see the planet as a resource, as a tool, as something that we can take, something we can gain from. When we think about the future of energy, fossil fuel industries are looking down a hole in the ground at stuff that died 1 million years ago, and they're telling us that that's the future of our energy. And it's not right. We gotta look up. We gotta look at the sky. We gotta look within ourselves and realize that this is gonna only create more and more destruction, more and more devastation. The natural gas industry, fracking is one of the most destructive processes of extracting natural gas from the ground. And they're at my doorstep. It's not something that I'm making up or something that I read in an article. They're in my community. And the natural gas that they're extracting from Colorado, from the 130,000 fracking wells that they have already drilled, and the other 100,000 wells that they want to drill, all that gas is gonna get piped through Oregon. Exactly. We're not going to let that happen. Because these industries care more about money than they do about the survival of this generation, more about profit and about greed and about power than they do about what they are leaving for our children. And you are seeing movements like the people here in Oregon standing up. We are seeing people in Colorado stand up and build movements against the fracking industry. We're doing everything on our part to stop the gas from being drilled in the first place so they don't have to ship it through your backyard. You are seeing First Nation people all over Canada in different parts of the world standing up against tar sands. Which they say if we finish drilling the oil out of the tar sands, it'll be game over for the climate, game over for the planet, and game over for the people. The future of energy is not down a hole because the future of energy is up. And we gotta wake up and show the politicians that the people are not gonna sit idly by as they poison our water, as they poison our air, and as they destroy communities because we are gonna rise up and take action. We already are. So not only is there this huge environmental impact that we're seeing in my community, health impacts that we're seeing in the children in my neighborhoods, but we are seeing the increase in carbon dioxide unlike we've ever seen before. For 650,000 years, it's never been above that yellow line, ever. Until now, we are like on an average of 400 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. They say the safe level is 350 ppm. And we're skyrocketing past that. And we're at an exponential increase because as populations are increasing, more people on the planet means more people that need resources, more people that need energy, more fossil fuels that are getting burned, and more climate disasters that we're seeing all over the world. And what people gotta realize is that climate change is a human rights issue. It is impacting the livelihood and the way of life of people all over the world. Maybe we're not seeing it as much here living in a first world country, but if you look at Pakistan, if you look at the Philippines, or if you look at Haiti, when different parts of the world get hit with a flood or a tornado or a thunderstorm or something huge that is caused by the shift in climate, it's not going to be as easy for them to bounce back as it is for us. The people that have least contributed to climate change are the ones that are most being affected. And that's not right. Because us big consumers, us big producers of energy here in this country gotta start standing up and being a model for what the rest of the world looks like. There are more children on the planet than adults. There are more young people on the planet than adults. And we gotta be at the front lines of this movement. We need everybody involved, but young people gotta be at the forefront of the movement. And when we see climate disasters, we're not just talking about global warming anymore. It's not just getting hot. Hot places are getting cold, and cold places are getting hot. We're seeing droughts and floods where we never see droughts and floods. We're seeing tornadoes where we never see tornadoes. In Colorado, we'll have 70 degrees of weather one day, and in the next couple days it dumps a foot of snow. That's not right. Right here in Oregon, it's warmer than it should be. I'm talking to a lot of families here, and they're saying that it's not supposed to be this warm this time of year. In my backyard, we had the greatest forest fire. We had the greatest forest fire we've ever seen in Colorado. Within a 3-month period that we have suffered the worst and most costly floods in Colorado history. We have never seen anything as bad. They happen within a 3-month period of one another. If this is not climate change, if this is not proof enough for you, then you are denying the fact that hundreds of homes in Colorado were destroyed by the flood. You are denying the fact that hundreds of people were displaced by climate disasters every single day. Because it's only going to get worse and worse unless we can stand up and take action, because that is what we are seeing more and more of young people and adults all over the world. And what we got to look at is that the power isn't going to come from the elected officials. They have failed to protect us from climate change, from our environmental crises, from the destruction of indigenous cultures. If you look all the way back, government has failed to protect us from the greatest issues of our time. You know, if we see things as bad as climate change that are ravaging countries and communities all over the world, why has it not been stopped yet? People love their children. If you could give them something like that to connect to, so this is going to impact our children. And they are still failing to see the urgency of this problem and the necessity to act. So we are not going to sit idly by. We are not going to stand by and wait for them to take action, because we are rising up as individuals, as voices for this generation, as voices for those that do not have voices, as voices for the earth, as voices for the forest, and we are here to speak for the trees. So moving to a song, I'll invite 3 out of my 5 siblings up here to help me perform this song. Huge shout out to my little sister Xiuhtezcatl. She's 7 years old. And I think this is probably the biggest audience she's performed for, yeah. Right, Xiuhtezcatl? Yeah? Yeah? Cool. Well, power to her. Power to you all. And let's get the snake track started up. So, here we go. That is not the right track. Oh, because it's on, there we go. Yeah.
I feel trapped, the concrete road sinking deep, I'm going under. Machines come out and sunder, leaders, resources we plunder. You move to the way, I raise my voice and say what we want for my generation at the end of the day. If the tree falls on the forces, anyone bother to listen? This is the people's darkest hour, we must make the right decision. Only to more salvation, the whole deforestation. The ancient guardians of this non-lost nation. I wasn't born in the year of the panda, I was born in the year of the concrete block. We can break these locks and chains. We can break them. We can break these locks and chains. So let's break them. I wasn't born in the year of the panda. I was born in the year of the concrete block. We can break these locks and chains. We can break them. We can break these locks and chains. So let's break them.
Yeah.
We slash and we burn. Will we ever learn? If a forest catches fire, a small part of us will burn. Not the low rats, but I speak for the trees. The survival of a forest depends on you and me. Look into the eyes of our children. You will see the beauty of the world within them. Since I fade into the sunset, the trees will surround me. Climb to the branches, feel life so profoundly.
I was born into this world as a part of the land. And I'm climbing to the tree of the flowers. I'm one with the land. We are the future of us and all of it. Standing tall like a tree in a forest that I love. I'm the home to protect the all I love. Don't cut down a tree.
Don't destroy my only home.
Don't cut down a forest.
Leave us alone. I wasn't born in the year of the panda. We can break them. So let's break them. I wasn't born in the year of the panda. I was born in the year of the concrete block. We can break these locks and chains. We can break them. These locks and chains. So let's break them. Are we the last generation of our people? We must rise up and fight for our freedom. If I plant one seed, I can grow the whole forest. I can bring back the trees that we all need and cherish. I can feel the pain of the Mother Earth, and I know when the sun fades away and the lights burn low, I turn my head to the sky, gaze into the stars. Is this why we're really here? Is this who we really are? Put down my axe for the future generation. Restore our ancient forests, mass deforestation. Put down my axe for the future generation. Restore our ancient forests, mass reforestation. I wasn't born in the year of the panda. I was born in the year of the concrete block. We can break these locks and chains. We can break them. We can break these locks and chains. So let's break them. I wasn't born in the year of the panda. I was born in the year of the concrete block. We can break these locks and chains. We can break them. We can break these locks and chains. So let's break them.
For the trees. Hope you guys like that. Was it alright? Cool. So we talk about, they're not the leaders, we're the leaders, right? But then you gotta figure out how to embody that. How do we bring that into our lives? How do we act as the leaders of this next world? How do we act as the leaders of a changing world? And one thing that I've seen all over the world is that it's got to start with action. It's got to start with education. And if you look at our education systems, it's broken. They are not teaching us the right stuff. There is very evident that we are facing a global crisis. And instead of teaching us how to grow our own food or how to get clean water or how to respond to a natural disaster, they're teaching us about people that died 100 years ago, which is important to study all those things, but in the face of imminent destruction, we gotta flip the way that we're teaching kids. And even more than about those things, we gotta empower youth. We have to show them that no matter who we are, where we are from, or how old we are, we can stand up and our ideas and our artistic creativity can change the world. We are putting young people in a box. We're smashing them into a box and hoping that they all fit. And the ones that don't, we call stupid. And the problem with that is that it is cutting them off from their connection to the world. It is cutting them off from their connection to themselves, and it is cutting them off from their connection to their people. And from who we are. If we look at indigenous tribes, we look at indigenous reservations all over the world, in different parts of this country, a lot of the kids are so disconnected because we are showing them that their ways are wrong. And we are discrediting who they are, we are discrediting their people. And so there has to be a massive shift in the way that we are teaching this generation. What we learn today is going to impact the kind of people we are 10 years down the road, 50 years down the road. The kind of decisions that we're going to make, the kind of politicians we're going to be, the kind of teachers we're going to be, the kind of lawyers we're going to be, and the kind of decisions we're going to make. Because what we learn in school is going to stick with us for the rest of our lives, whether we choose to acknowledge that or not. Because we never stop learning. So let's teach this generation the right things, the things that they need to be listening to, and the right things that they need to be learning about. So, a lot of people are like, but how do I get involved? How do I do something like you've done? And for me, it was easy because I had the most supportive household, the most supportive family, the most supportive parents, and the most incredible family that I could possibly hope for. And not everybody's got that. And we got to realize that not every kid's parents are going to want them to make a huge positive impact on the world around them. Because they want them to do their best. They want them to get through school. And there's all these expectations of you got to do this, this, and this, and graduate from the right college, and get the right job, and then go and get the right house, and have the right family, and then retire and die, and then that's it. There's a lot of these expectations that's what a perfect world looks like. That's what the American dream looks like. Not everybody wants to fit into that box. And so I'm the visionary of a project called RISE, and it's RYSE, Rising Youth for a Sustainable Earth. And that's like an awkward picture of me. But it was like an action shot. It was like an action shot, like while I was talking. But that's the face of the movement. So this is a project called RISE, and it's Rising Youth for a Sustainable Earth. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring forth young people across the country, starting with across the country, then spreading out and building to across the planet, and train other youth, start it so that this entire movement is youth-led. We want youth to be leading this movement, because if a young person comes into a classroom and talks to 50 other young people, they're more likely to respond and to take action if one adult or one professor talks to them. It'll stick with them more so if somebody their own age that they can relate to, they can use things that they can relate to, like hip-hop, like rap, and use those things to relate to other young people. So we're trying to train this next generation to be climate solutionaries, to train this rising generation of climate leaders to be on the front lines of the movement and know how to become leaders in their own community, in their own schools, in their own lives, in their own homes. That is what we are trying to implement and bring to schools across the country. We are starting trainings this March. We're actually going to New York. Kelsey is one of our youth council members from right here in Eugene, Oregon. So we got 18 youth council members to start us off with, right? And those 18 are going to go be trained in New York, myself included, are going to be trained by some of the foremost trainers in the country on leadership, on movement building. They train a lot of the huge 350 movements and the 350 actions they've done, the Wildfire Project. And so then they're going to train this group of 18 kids, and then we're going to go back to our own homes and our own communities and implement this and teach everybody in our community how to do the same, how to be leaders and how to take action on climate change, specifically directed around solutions. How do we creatively disrupt the system at hand and push for the solutions we want to see to build the kind of world that we want and we deserve. So we are constantly looking for more young people to engage in all of our projects. So if you know anybody, if you are somebody, adults, youth, or other, that would like to get involved, then contact us, and we will be so happy to get you guys involved. Just quickly, I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna make this a little bit quick, these last few slides. But what we got going is that my brother, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but he went silent for 45 days. He spoke not one word for 45 days. Stand up and struggling, stand up. So proud of this little guy. And so his message is that I am not going to start talking until we begin to take action as climate leaders, until the world leaders begin to take action on climate change. And what he realized, like halfway through this silent strike that he did, was that we are the climate leaders. We are the world leaders that are going to be making the shift that we want to see. So this was just a powerful thing. It reached over 1 million people. And hundreds of thousands signed on to take a day of silence. And what that is really moving towards is we're moving towards silence, from silence into action. And we have this incredible pledge that we got. We're trying to get 1 million signatures by the COP21 summit in Paris. And so you can check out silenceintoaction.org, or it's also actually on EcoWatch. EcoWatch highlighted that, ecowatch.org. To go and sign this petition to try to get 1 million signatures to take to the Paris summit to show them that the voices of this generation are going to be represented in some of the greatest battles that we are going to see. And so just such a huge, beautiful movement that came forth from one kid sitting at a sushi bar saying, we're screaming so loud and they're not listening to us, what if we shut up for a second? And then the whole world will watch, and that'll be our amplifier, that'll be our megaphone. The silence is what will get people's attention, so that this day, the moment that I start to speak again, the whole world's going to be listening. And that was the idea behind that incredible campaign that inspired millions of people across the planet. So with this work with Earth Guardians, it started out as like a community organization that, we had like 30 kids that were coming to a meeting every week, and we were getting involved in the city councils, and we got pesticides out of all of our local parks in Boulder. It grew to an international organization. We have Earth Guardian crews on 6 continents. We have hundreds of thousands of young people engaged and active in our communities when we do these big global events, planting trees and identifying some of the bigger environmental, social, and economic challenges of our generation. Identifying those issues and building the solutions through things that we love to do. So Earth Guardians has gone huge in the last few years because of social media, because of our ability to connect with the world around us. And it's amazing to see the impact that we've had on a community level. So one of the big reasons why I'm here is my connection to Our Children's Trust and Atmospheric Trust Litigation. And it's just an amazing project that I've been involved with for like the last 4 years now. I turned 12 when I was on an expedition with them in Washington, D.C. And what it is we're working to engage and inspire young people to get involved in our political and our legal systems. Because you don't see that very often. And when you see a kid suing their government, everybody's going to ask, why are you suing your government? Why are you suing the state of Colorado? Why are you suing the U.S. federal government? And it's because they are failing to do their duty, to do their job of protecting our atmosphere and our resources for future generations to come. And so cases were filed in all 50 states, and in all 50 states we have cases. A lot of the cases were thrown out, but a lot of even more cases are moving forward. And we're working with more and more young people across the country and across the globe to get more lawsuits internationally, so more young people can feel empowered, can feel inspired, and feel like they can make a difference, and they can take action on any level. And they have a legal and moral duty. Our government has a legal and moral duty to protect our atmosphere and trust for future generations to come.
Damn right!
So I'm telling you just briefly about this expedition that we went. We went to Washington, D.C. to lobby congressmen. And we got actually the public support of over 80 congressmen that said that we support your lawsuit in suing the state government and the federal government for not protecting our climate. So the first federal lawsuit got thrown out. And we're working on bringing forth another one that is even more powerful. We got more young people involved. And what happened is at the beginning, a lot of lawsuits got thrown out. But what people are starting to understand and adopt in states across the country is that the atmosphere is a resource of trust. It is a part of the public trust doctrine that we gotta protect as individuals, and it's the responsibility for the courts to force the government to take action on the greatest issues of our time. Okay. So to bring my little brother up here one more time, we're gonna perform a song for you guys called Taking You to Court that we actually wrote for the first PIELC. Not the first PIELC, but the first PIELC we were at, I think in 2011? Something like that, 2011, it was a while ago. 2012. And so we're gonna perform this song for you guys to keep things moving, keep things active.
Alright, so I don't know much about the court system, so if this beginning part's rough, come educate me.
Alright, here we go.
Alright, y'all, go call your lawyers, rob the jury, talk to your attorneys, because we're taking you to court. Yeah. Police, they fail, taking on call, keep supporting the polluters that are taking it all. Bottom their pockets, getting filthy rich, while the earth is dying and the children get sick. We waiting for you to stand up for our future. We waited for too long.
baptized. Yeah, you are standing together to change our fate. We are suing the leaders of our country to stake, so we are taking you to court. Now maybe you will hear, you gotta cut the carbon to protect the atmosphere. You gotta put a climate recovery plan into place. The natural forest, the United States. The natural resources need to be protected for future generations, not to be neglected.
Our future is in danger, how we make that clear?
Corporations putting profits before our future.
How can we call ourselves United States when we bicker amongst ourselves about politics?
When the real issue lies in the future you will leave, not just for the children but for all humanity. It's time to move parties, put the egos aside. It's time to move away from conquer and divide. Yeah, you are standing together to change our fate. We are suing the leaders of our country and state, so we are taking you to court. Now maybe you will hear, you gotta get the carbon to protect the atmosphere. You gotta put a climate recovery plan into place. Natural forest, the United States. The natural resources need to be protected. Future generations and not to be neglected.
Yeah, we went to federal court in D.C. to plead our case. The big corporations got up in our face.
In your face,
Industry reps, they wanted to.
wearing the sterile suits all black and blue.
What? Challenging our case to get into street.
Going up against kids, is there something that they miss?
The greedy choices will affect their kids too.
When they see they look the world full of zoo. Yeah, you are standing together to change our fate. We are suing the leaders of our country and state, so we are taking you to court. Now maybe you will hear, you gotta cut the carbon to protect the atmosphere. You gotta put a climate recovery plan into place. The natural forest, the United States. The natural resources need to be protected for future generations and not to be neglected.
Yeah, we're taking you to court. So just to quickly tell about the Colorado lawsuit there's a lot to talk about. Dang, I wish I had more time. But to briefly talk about the Colorado lawsuit, our first petition that we took to court was thrown out. So we filed a rulemaking, and we asked the courts to force the COGCC to put a statewide moratorium on fracking until it can be proven to not adversely impact our health, our air, our water, or our environment. And we know that if we got our scientists on top of it, there will be absolutely no way in which they can produce and prove that fracking is safe, because there's absolutely no safe way to extract natural gas from the ground. There's no safe way to fracking. So there is no way that we are not going to lose, because this time around, we're coming at it with even more powerful cases. And there's even more likely of a chance for us to be able to ban fracking statewide. And so that's what's going down. So the COGCC, they filed a motion to dismiss our case. And on Christmas Eve, the court gave us a gift, and they rejected the commission's motion to dismiss. So this case is moving forward in the courts, and we are going to continue to push until we get our voices heard on every level, until we are shouting in the streets, in the courts, and as young people in our schools every single day, until we can be heard from every point of view and from every perspective and on in every form that we can be heard. We're going to keep fighting until they can acknowledge our voices and see that we have something to say. So, right here in Eugene, Oregon, Eugene was the first city to adopt a climate recovery plan. The first city in the country. And a huge comeback is owed to all the incredible lawyers that have done so much work here. Kelsey, Juliana, there's just so many amazing people that have made this happen. So shout out to everybody who made Eugene the first city in the country to adopt a climate recovery plan based off of entirely science-based. That is going to really help. So we're having our voices heard in the courts, and in all the streets just as much. And all around the world, we are seeing more and more young people that are standing up for our rights, that are standing up for our futures, and marching through the streets because we are empowered, because we are on fire, because we are ready to stand up as a generation that is going to impact the entire world. You know, we all have that opportunity as a generation to leave something behind that future generations will remember. And right here, right now, this is our opportunity to do that. If you look at what happened in New York, There's over 400,000 people marching through the streets of New York, demanding climate justice. That is the largest climate demonstration we have ever seen. And it's only going to grow from there because the fire and the power that we felt there, the 400,000 people that believed in climate justice, and the millions more around the planet, there is a movement that is building from the ground up, that is building from the voices of the people, from the voices of this generation. And I talked a little bit about this yesterday on another panel, but I'm going to talk about it again because I feel like it's really important. And a lot of times we think about the issue as you know, climate change is the issue, or the amount of carbon in the atmosphere is the issue, or the fossil fuel industries are our opponents, or our enemies, and we're battling against them. And so even if through these lawsuits we got climate recovery plans in every country in the world and got back to 50 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere, and nobody knew about it, you know, we would still be in that same mindset as we did before, where people are just thinking, oh, you know, let's fix the problem, and we're seeing the problem incorrectly, because the problem is not climate change. The problem is this systemic ideology that it's okay to destroy the planet for resources. It's okay to tear apart our living systems and our environments for the simplicity of our lives, so that we can have what we want. The mindset that our system has currently in place is not working. And before anything else, that is what has to shift. There has to be a monumental shift in the way that we relate to our planet, and the way we relate to each other, and the way that we relate with the environment around us. Because once that happens, this movement is going to burst through, and we're going to be unstoppable. We're going to have young people in countries all over the world, and the streets everywhere, in celebration. Not against something, but for the creation of sustainability all over the planet. And sustainable lifestyles, sustainable jobs, and a sustainable planet for this generation and for those to follow. That is what is going to come forth in this shift of the mentality, where we see each other as equals, where we see the planet as a living, breathing being. And these are big ideas, you know? It's not going to be easy. But we can start as one person, as one kid, as one adult, as one individual, and come together with communities all over the world with the kind of people that we want to be with. And that is where the solutions are going to come from. That is where this shift is going to come from, is by that connection with who we are, with where we are from, and with the people that we love. And we are going to learn that we have to be the change that we wish to see in the world in order to create the kind of shift that we're going to bring forth on this planet. So to wrap all this up, I'm going to invite my brother and my sister up here one more time to perform one last song for you guys called Be the Change. I want everybody to get involved. Everybody to be helping us out with this call and response. And let's see what you guys think. I'll wait for you guys. Good? Let's do it.
We are the youth that we have come to shine the light. To shoot the way to live it, just ain't right. It's a danger in the future that you will believe. We're all living things and we're human beings. We're on the brink of ecological disaster. What you do today will determine our future. All generations are counting on you to find yourself, change the things that you do. It's time to be the change, never what you know is right. It's time to be the change for the world of light. It's time to be the change and unite as one. It's time to be the change that needs everyone. Gotta feel the change, to live the change, share the change, to spread the change, give the change, to be the change, so be the change, so be the change. From deep down inside, oh look at yourself, we are not divided. Take a walk and see what is real. Who wants to learn what you will feel? Breathe in deep and let belief show. Be the truth that you know, you reap what you sow. Let's it's time to be the change, and for what you know is right. It's time to be the change from the world of light. It's time to be the change, and unite as one. It's time to be the change, and that means everyone. Gotta feel the change, to live to be the change of the world of light. It's time to be the change and unite as one. It's time to be the change and that means everyone gotta feel the change. To live the change, share the change, to spread the change, to be the change, so be the change, so be the change. Who is the change? We are the change. Who brings the change? We bring the change. Who is the change? We are the change. Who brings the change? We bring the change. Who is the change? We are the change. Who brings the change? We bring the change. Who is the change? We are the change. Who brings the change? We bring the change. Who is the change? We are the change. Who brings the change? We bring the change. Who is the change? We are the change. We are the change. We are the change.
So now you have all this sunshine, and the energy is so hyped up, and all the speakers that are just so inspiring, so amazing. So come check us out. Check out earthguardians.org. Get involved, get inspired, get involved with Rise. We have albums with 10 professionally mixed, recorded, and mastered tracks right up here. So come talk to us if you want to help us support for $10 donation.
Also, when I introduced myself earlier, I said I was 11. I actually just turned 12 like a couple days ago.
So the hard part now is taking what we feel right here and carrying that on into our own lives. It's not easy because we are battling some of the greatest issues of our time against some of the biggest industries on our planet. We got 12 and 14-year-old kids battling the oil and gas industry. And it's not going to be easy to win this battle, but if we can stand together, if we can join hands and unite as one people on this planet, we can create the kind of change that we want to see and the justice and the sustainability in our communities all over the planet. So we are doing it right here, right now, just by being here. So let's carry that forward into our everyday lives and make this the next revolution of the people. Thank you.
So that should give you guys enough time to get to panels. Our next speaker hails from Navajo lands on the Colorado Plateau in northern Arizona. In the center of traditional Navajo and Hopi lands lies Black Mesa, an 8,000-foot high series of plateaus where people have lived for over 7,000 years. It is also where Peabody Energy began coal mining operations in the 1960s that continue today, drawing 3 million gallons of groundwater every day from the local aquifer. In 2001, a group of Navajo, Hopi, and Chicano students at Northern Arizona University founded the Black Mesa Water Coalition and tapped Wahleah Johns to be the organization's co-director. The organization's mission is to halt the environmental degradation on Navajo and Hopi lands and replace extractive royalties and jobs with sustainable green alternatives. Wahleah Johns continues that fight today, and she's here to share her story of a grassroots effort to halt the fossil fuel industry on Native American lands. She currently resides in Oakland, California, and is a proud working mother of 2 girls. Please welcome Wahleah Johns.
I am Salt Clan, born for the Red Bottom people, and I'm really happy to be here today and to join you all in this conference, and thank you to the organizers and the people that helped to put this event together, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I would like to recognize the homeland that we're on, the indigenous people's homeland here, and all the tribes in the region. I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be on your homeland. And I think I've been here once before, but it was a short trip, and so I just want to honor the ancestors here today. I'm from northern Arizona, a place called Black Mesa, and this is a photo about a couple miles from where I'm from. And I took this photo, I had the opportunity to fly over our homelands in a small airplane, and to see the air view of coal mining activity on Black Mesa, where I'm from. And it was an interesting ride, and because I've never seen the scarring of our lands from air. And there was two things that happened to me in that plane, whereas one, my heart was just, in deep pain, and we have a lot of coal under this beautiful mesa, and she's regarded as a female mountain. And when I saw this scarring, it's a history of resource extraction in our communities and in a lot of indigenous territories throughout the U.S. Policies and laws have targeted indigenous peoples' lands, homelands, sacred sites, just to extract natural resources to build an economy. So the second thing that happened to me on this flight was looking at the potential of what can we do with these lands that have gone through deep transformation, and is there something that we can use these lands for that can give back? Can the families use these lands that these were once theirs to grow food? Can they be used for economic development? Because I feel like the story is just one of thousands of stories throughout the world of trying to show a just transition, we call it. Transitioning away from kind of destructive practices and fossil fuel extraction to more of a sustainable, healthy vision for our communities. And so I was saying, like, wow, there's just all this scarred land that maybe we can put solar on it, and because of existing transmission and existing infrastructure in place, this could be a way our communities can be more self-determined to look at the type of economy that we want that is in line with our traditional values up in Navajo and Black Mesa. So we did a research, a lot of extensive research in business development to look at solar, because it wasn't something like renewable energy, wasn't something that we know too much about. And I'm a community organizer. I'll go to the next slide. This is, so if you don't know where Navajo Nation is, this is Navajo Nation, and it goes into Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. We have 110 communities. We have a 3-branch government system, judicial, legislative, and we have an executive branch. And this is our government, and it's very similar to the U.S. government, and it can be pretty hard to organize in. And we started a lot of our work to protect our groundwater. So this is, if you're not familiar with northern Arizona, this is the Four Corners area. The image in the purple represents our aquifer. So we have pristine aquifer there called the Navajo Aquifer. And for over 40 years, Peabody Coal Company, there was 2 coal strip mines up there in Black Mesa. They used to use pristine groundwater to slurry coal, to move coal through a pipeline, a 300-mile pipeline that provided energy, coal and water to Mojave Generating Station. And that generated electricity for a lot of people in California, Nevada, and Arizona. And as we learn more about our groundwater usage, and I want to give props to like a lot of technical assistance on this because, and a lot of grassroots organizations came out of protecting our groundwater, the Black Mesa Trust, you know, our organization, Twinajona Ane. A lot of people started to, you know, trying to, I think of strategies to protect our groundwater. And every day Peabody used to use 3 million tons of water to slurry coal. And we start to see the drying of springs and the pressure going down in wells. And so we immediately started organizing to, you know, to protect our groundwater, pushing legislative resolutions. Twinajona Ane is a grassroots Navajo organization, collected a lot of resolutions and did public education, mostly in, you know, in our own language. And finally, 2 or 3 years later, they were able to get our tribal council to protect our groundwater. And so what happened when that, when they protected our groundwater, it closed one of the mines, and then it closed the pipeline, the slurry line. We always say it's bittersweet kind of, you know, victory because, you know, on one hand, it's protecting, you know, a sacred element. On the other, if you come from a coal mining community, this means loss of jobs of your family members and a real tension from our tribal government towards us about shutting things down and reducing our revenues for our tribal nation. And that really stuck with us, and that's why we started to think about just transition and looking at ways to, what's the alternative to coal? You know, what's the alternative to oil development and fracking and all these things? What is that? What does that look like? And who is the constituency that decides that? And so we did a lot of presentations throughout our whole communities about just transition, about the need to put more sustainable solutions forward. This is to get a picture of how much water Peabody had been using for the slurry. On the left blue column, that's how much they use. And then on the farthest right, you can barely see it, is my community, where I'm from, Forest Lake. So, and these are all, you know, communities in the Black Mesa region that depend on an aquifer for their municipal use. A lot of people still haul water. A lot of people don't have running water, and a lot of people don't have electricity. 20,000 homes don't have electricity on Navajo. So when you're, you know, given all this information, you got to think about the infrastructure. And so this is just some, you know, background information, because this is one of the most controversial coal plants related to coal-fired power plants issues and topics out there. We have the Navajo Generating Station, and then on the Four Corners we have San Juan and Four Corners Power Plant. Escalante, Cholla, you know, we're surrounded by 5 to 7 coal plants on our reservation. And they're not small, they're huge. They're over, you know, close to 2,000 megawatts each unit. And, you know, because of laws and policies, they are trying to shift to reduce more of their NOx emissions and pollution, putting more pollution controls on their smokestacks. So this, I wanted to touch on this because this is what is a huge infrastructure. We have Navajo Generating Station that basically is used to, the power from there is generating to push the, divert the Colorado River through the Central Arizona project. So it powers the CAP, they call it, to Phoenix, to give water to Phoenix, Tucson, and a lot of tribal nations. And so there's like a lot of water rights allocations tied to the Central Arizona project. So when we talk about coal, we have to talk about this history. We have to talk about the history of establishment of Arizona, the establishment of California, the establishment of Nevada. And we go way back because we have to recognize that, you know, these laws and policies were imposed on us and government systems were imposed on us. They're not our own traditional government systems. And how much of our rights has been taken away. And what are we going to do as community members to reclaim our self-determination, to be able to decide what type of way of life we want that's in the best interest of our future generations. And this infrastructure here is really messy. We have the federal government that is majority owner of Navajo Generating Station and has been the biggest polluter in the country. And how is that possible? And what are they doing to help transition towards clean energy? And that's been our solution, is, you know, we've been advocating for Central Arizona Project to, you know, they use pumps to pump the water uphill all the way to Tucson from the Colorado River, and we're advocating that each pump, they use renewable energy to pump the water up, rather than depending on Navajo Generating Station, where they get their coal from Black Mesa. And really trying to, you know, push the alternative, I think, is so important. I've worked over 15 years trying to protect our homelands and defend our homelands with legal strategy, grassroots organizing, you know, using communications and media campaigns to really get, you know, to shame Peabody and, you know, all the utilities to look towards clean energy. And it's been hard, you know, as of 2013, Navajo Nation signed and extended the agreement for Navajo Generating Station to continue to operate till 2044. And the proposal that these industries and the federal government put forward, we have APS, SRP, these are, you know, LA Department of Water Power, Southern Cal, no, not Southern Cal Edison, Nevada Power. They all put a proposal forward to you know, that they'll reduce their emissions a little bit, and it's not a good proposal, and they have a lot of influence on our tribal nation. And so yeah, they extended it to 2044, and it was heartbreaking because, you know, it's ultimately up to our tribal nation to decide what direction we're going to go in. And in addition to that year, they created, they bought a coal mine that BHP used to operate in eastern Navajo. And fracking is becoming huge in eastern Navajo as well. And they just also adopted their first energy policy that is really geared towards coal development. And we have about 50 billion tons of coal that we live on as a tribal nation. So if, you know, I think it's definitely looking at tribal nations using sovereignty. They have a lot of power. And if we're talking about, you know, combating climate change and combating, you know, the pollution and the health issues, we need to really help or, you know, figure out to build partnership with these tribal nations. And so a lot of my work recently, so I talked about the 15 years of like a lot of my work, and I can go on and on about that. But most recently I've been looking at these transmission lines. We have these type of transmission lines throughout our whole reservation. And it's crazy and really funny too. I mean, I laugh even though it's horrible, but people live near these transmission lines and they don't even have electricity. But how is it that these transmission lines are powering everybody with our natural resources? And that's just so strange to me. Looking at the existing infrastructure, the green lines there are the transmission kind of freeways and corridors, and these are large transmission lines. And in the red and the orange and yellow are solar potential, solar resources. And in the southwest, you know, it has some of the best solar radiation in all of the world, or in North America. And I think that that's the potential that we have as a tribal nation, being one of the largest nations in the northeastern part of Arizona, that if these existing infrastructures are there, why can't we as a tribal nation sell you know, solar on these transmissions? If California and Nevada are getting out of coal, the business of coal, would they be willing to buy solar power from our communities? And of course, the way that we're designing this idea to use solar at utility scale to demonstrate community benefits, to do exactly the opposite of how Peabody's been doing business in our communities, but to, give back. And so a lot of my work has been focused on pushing for utility scale solar. And it might not be, the best thing for all communities to push for renewables, but it is something that we have a lot of land, we have existing infrastructure and transmission and solar potential. And the only thing that we really lack is political will, a lot of education. We're a tiny organization, we're only 3, staff. And I think, this work has been just pretty personal to me because I come from this area where coal extraction is it's like right there, in my backyard. And I think, moving forward as communities that are bearing the brunt of these industries in our backyard, we really also need to be thinking about the solutions and what is the alternative? What is something that I can't, the thing when they passed those resolutions to extend coal permits on a reservation, we were up against, our tribal nation getting up to 43 million annually. And so when they say, well, okay, well, then what's your solution? What is going to be competitive to that? And I don't have a competitive proposal for that, And so it just really shows you how big coal is a powerhouse throughout our tribal communities. But what I can say is that we are going to, we are planting the seeds of something that is created by our communities, that is also in line with our traditional teachings as Diné people. Because I appreciate the young people talking earlier about and singing about it, because that's who we are, and and reflecting that mindset of how we do development is so important. What's my time? Okay, cool. So this is a graph. This is what we're trying to propose in our communities as we're structuring solar development projects. What we're looking at, most tribal nations, it's hard to do solar in our communities as far as financing. And so we had to be creative about how can we finance like multi-million-dollar projects, and how do we ensure that we do get community benefits or some type of ownership stake in that. And so, I'm a community organizer, is my background, and then going into like business development is just like, learning so many pieces of the puzzle, of renewable energy, and what's currently happening in Indian country around renewable energy. What are some success models? What are some, challenges right now? And at the moment, this is how we're envisioning, something to come back for the community. This is a timeline from 0 to 10. In time, we're proposing a flip structure where we can get people to invest, and banks and companies to invest into renewable energy on behalf of the community. And in time, and mostly it's tax equity investors, and in time, the community and our tribal nation will be able to be majority owners. These are just like it's been fun to like go deeper in this, and I feel that our current needs for this work is that I see lack of is energy lawyers, people that understand energy development, that really want to take a stand on behalf of the community. And it also means like coming into our tribal nation and understand tribal sovereignty laws, but also the energy laws. That's the only way I feel like we can move forward or have some type of partnership that is in line with our traditional values as Indigenous peoples, but also it's just it's a sector that I don't really see too much happening out there on behalf of community. There's been a lot of solar energy projects throughout Indian country where they just lease land, and that they get lease payments from whatever big industries coming into their lands. But we're trying to go further and say we want community ownership, we want community benefits, and that's the only way we can work. And really, staking and being bold about our vision to make that transition happen. And I've learned a lot, all these years around this. I guess my community, my land has taught me a lot. And I do give back to our identity and our way of life and thinking and a philosophy as people. And it's really, rooted me just like the young people that performed earlier, that really resonates. So this is a picture of my children. I have a 7 and 4-year-old, and this is where we're from. And so in the background, you can see a little of the smoke, and that's typical coal mining, blasting. And how this is connected to you and I and the world is that, and the reason why I'm pushing the alternative to solar is that we can lessen that smoke and that we can keep this land as pristine as it is in this area for our future generations, and that they don't have to, be cornered into just one way of development, that they can actually look at, alternative and be more proactive about what is in their best interest, in supporting them in that self-determination and regaining that strength of who we are, because we've been so conditioned due to oppression and due to colonization, has really done a good job at, kind of forgetting about our homelands and the connection and our sacred relationship to Mother Earth and to all living things, and we're just too focused on money, and so that's been the driver for, for a lot of tribes that have natural resources. But what is that, how are we supporting the local people, even though if they don't, they don't speak English, even though if they don't, haven't gone to school, how are you working with these individuals and representing their best interests in partnership? And I think I really want to leave that with you all, is that we've had a lot of great partnerships with law clinics, and I think that that's been a good model for us in defending our homeland, but right now we're just looking for people who have a lot of interest in looking at community benefits models on solar development. So I think I got everything there. Yeah, I think is my time up? I didn't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to.
Off to panels, and we'll see you back at 7:15. Thank you.